we're busy people. Most of the people in the world are good and just take care of their own lives. And so we weren't really up on what was happening behind the scenes. But this has been going on for maybe a couple of decades, the planning for this. And maybe that gives away a little bit of my opinion on what's going on. I really want to stay for, a wide variety of listeners. I want to stay as non-biased as I can. But maybe I gave away what I think is happening here and what's happened.
Well, Mark, I hate to interrupt you, but, we're a part of Freedom Radio here. And, anything you want to say, you can say here. Just so you know the rules. Just so you know the rules here.
I get it. When I was asked to be a part of this, to talk, I understand where this is coming from. This is not, this is I'm allowed to talk here. Now, what I try to do, though, is I try to speak to people who maybe are hearing this type of thing for the first time. Maybe because there is a lot of censorship that's gone on around the world. And I also try to, as much as I can, I try to be respectful of, even within the freedom movement, there are differences. For example, I'm voting conservative, right, in the upcoming election. But I have many friends who are voting other ways. And there's also within each party, there's differing, opinions on, well, I like this about this party, I like that about that party. So I try to be respectful that there are other opinions, because that's the whole thing we're fighting for here, isn't it? I mean, we're allowed to have our differing of opinions, and some people, there's so many aspects to this, masking and lockdowns, and was it planned, and, was there a bat involved? So over the last year and a half, I've done a ton of my own research, and I'm very comfortable with what I feel. The obvious truth is that any what I'm about is truth. What I'm about is what's real, what is true. I'm not about labels or segregation or division. I'm about truth. If something is true, we should be able to talk about it and reach a consensus. Now, for those of you who don't believe that this is all planned, okay, you have to understand that any type of truth needs to be out in front of everyone, both sides, and then you can make an obvious decision, your own decision.
That goes a long way, though, Mark. But do you think that we've really got so complacent with our government's actions and our news feeds these days that we're missing the whole point here?
Oh, well, okay. So now you're asking for my opinion.
Well, of course. That's why you're here.
The media, the most of the media are engaged in warfare with freedom. Bottom line, this is they're making the stories fit the narrative. They're not reporting anymore. So it might be unpopular to say this, but it has to be said. It has to be said, and people have to. It's like, well, it's not affecting me right now. Yeah, but it will. It's coming to your door. The question that I always ask is this: there's only two possibilities here, Don. Was it that a virus happened, and then a vaccine was needed to be brought in to fight this virus? That's one school. That's one side, and the other side is that a vaccine was developed, and they needed a pandemic to bring the vaccine passports to the world. Okay, so my research tells me that back in April 2020, they were already filing for the paperwork for vaccine passports. That's on record, undeniable.
Okay,
so that tells me everything I need to know. All right, so all of the other arguments around everything, there's so many other things happening politically. Example, the decisions, if you're out there and you think this is just a pandemic and whatnot, the decisions that are being made economically should make you scratch your head.
Oh,
like, why would you do this? You're worried about masking and lockdowns, and yet you're letting people across the border.
That to me was a federal government cover-up, because they tried to make us believe through the news media and everything that when this pandemic was first found in Canada, that our borders were locked up. But what they failed to tell us was it was our land border between U.S. and Canada that was locked up, and still thousands of people were flying into Canada from these highly infected areas. So, like, that kind of, to me, what's up, Doc? Like, how come you're making us believe one thing, but the truth is this? And this is just where I'm at. Like, how did we get to this? Like, I'm trying to remember as a kid, like, did this happen to us as a kid? Like, was our freedoms being slowly picked away back then? Because that's exactly what's happening right now. And in my opinion, that our freedoms are slowly being picked away. And they're using this friggin' pandemic as an excuse to do it.
Well, look, it's all planned. No question. It's all planned because, again, I don't know if I've ever heard any of the media talking about vitamin D,
right,
or zinc, or any other way. Get out and for our whole life. Example, early on, and I'm not a scientist, but I have a lot of common sense. I'm not an idiot. And early on, I remember something that my doctor, who I've known for 40 years, my doctor told me about 5 years ago. I went in and I was, having the sniffles and this and that. And he made a simple statement. He said, if it's bacteria and it's cold and stuff, we can give you antibiotics. If it's a virus, you got to let it just take its course.
Right.
That's a scientific fact for the last 40 years. All of a sudden it's different? I don't think so.
Well, I don't think so either. But, like this whole like the passport thing here in British Columbia, like there's a lot of businesses fighting this back. And, and it's gone crazy. And, now Saskatchewan's in it. Like Quebec's already got their app ready to go. And, like, how do you feel about people comparing this to the Holocaust and the way, the Jews were treated with the mark and stuff like that? Like,
it's no different. No different. The early 30s, at the Nuremberg trial, what's his name in the charge of the German Air Force, when he was asked how you get an entire country to put the Star of David on someone's arm and segregate them and divide them. The German people are good people. How did you do that? Oh, it's very simple. You introduce fear, the fear of something.
That's right.
So the fear of this, whether it's and again, I'm not even talking about masking or any of that kind of stuff, any specific argument. There's so many of these arguments going around. How do we deal with this? How do we best deal with this? I'm just talking about, this is a psyop. This is a military takeover of the entire world by the New World Order. And that's not a conspiracy theorist. That's a knowledge of how these types of things happen. How did Venezuela get taken over? Was a wonderful country only a few years ago. How did they get taken over? It took about 2 years. And you have to, there's a whole checklist of things that you have to do if you want to take over a country. I mean, you've got to control the media. You've got to segregate people. You've got to create fear, something. And, if you notice, again, one of the things I mentioned, I'm not a gun owner.
No.
I've never been a gun owner. I've never even really cared about that type of argument. It's more so in the States than it is in Canada. But I also
just to be the devil's advocate, the Liberal government has pulled some sneaky under the table moves with the gun owners here in Canada.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, I'm saying I don't know much about the gun control movement, but I can tell you I'm considering buying a gun now, because I can tell you that, Australia is a good example of, they took the guns away, and now what do people do? It's not that anyone's going to use a gun, it's the threat of saying, hey, and in the States, this is the issue that they have there. That what it could come down to is you can't take over a country that has more guns in its houses than the actual army. So I'm seeing that guns in the hands of good people who won't use them unless they're attacked. I mean, is a good deterrent. Just today, for example, this whole vaccine passport thing to go out and go into a restaurant or whatever. There's a new lawsuit today. I don't know if you've seen it from Action for Canada, but
yeah, I did.
Rocco Galati. So now there's thousands of whistleblowers and thousands of the FDA, for instance, used to have they'd have a rigorous, if there was one sort of, issue with a medicine or something being released, they would put the halt and they would say, wait a minute, we need further study. Okay, so now that's one, right?
That's right.
So now there's thousands of doctors and thousands of nurses and lawyers and whatnot saying, hey, slow down here. What's the hurry? You say, well, people are getting sick. Oh, yeah, people are getting sick, for sure. But this is that's not the issue. The issue is, how are they getting sick? How bad are they getting sick? So they're changing the goalposts. Okay, so just a year ago, somebody said, bring your kid into a stadium. We're going to, you stay outside, and we're going to take your kid in. We're going to inject some stuff into them, and then they'll come out. You can't come in. We would have just said, well, that's obviously ridiculous. But here it is.
Yeah, but a year ago, they were talking, once 80% of the population had at least one jab, things could get back to normal. Then it was 2 jabs. And now, they're for the most vulnerable, and now they say they may need a 3rd booster.
So there's something wrong. Without telling us, the best lies, Don, the best lies in the world contain a little bit of truth. That's how you convince people. That's how you get to a stage of communism or Marxism. You take it bit by bit. You get them to accept this. Then you say, well, we're going to change it because of that. Okay? So that is, I've gotten into, arguments or this or that online and whatnot, but it always comes down to someone saying, screw you, or F you, or something. It's like, well, that's not an argument.
But you know what? I've seen some of your posts online, Mark, and I do notice that people snip at you every once in a while. But in your favor, you're always respectful of the other opinion, and I guess that's where you differ, is that you're always willing to listen to the other side. Even though you may think that they're fall off the wall. I've never really seen you be rude. So, well,
yesterday, for the first time, I had an incident in a place, and I won't get into that. I think we have to stand up. I mean, if you're going to tell me in 1939, hey, we're just going to take you away, we're going to put you on a train, we're going to send you somewhere, I'd be like, well, wait a minute here, where am I going? What are you doing with me? Well, so we have to stand up. Most of the people in our generation now, we never had to fight for freedom, and maybe this will be our time. But yesterday I went to even though I'm a conservative, I'll give you an example. I'm a conservative. I believe that the Conservative Party has the best chance of, first of all, getting rid of Trudeau. He has to go. That's my opinion. And I've got friends and family and whatnot that, not so much family, but I do know people that support the Liberals, but I've made my choice. I'm allowed to do that.
That's right. That's why we're a free country, right?
Well, that's right. Now, to give you an example of what you're saying, I went yesterday to a dinner, sort of a get-together out in the backyard, out where I live here, with a group called Awake Canada. And I know them pretty well. They're great people. And, most of them are PPC. And there I was, conservative, sitting with them. And the PPC people, a lot of them are just great people, and they have good intentions. Their main thing is no mandatory passports. Okay, so that's what they're standing up for. And there was a couple of members of Parliament there too, so we talked.
Well, speaking of that, Mark, just to interrupt you for a second, there's that group I was telling you about, the small business or businesses against the passports. That organization or that Facebook page, they're so afraid that it's going to get knocked down out of Facebook. But, they went from 0 to like over 60,000 people like that quick. This is how crazy.
In a day.
Like this is how crazy this whole passport.
Well,
is,
it should tell you.
Anyway.
It should tell you everything you need to know. Now, the same thing to do with Trump down the states, without getting too much into. People say, "Oh, you're a Trumper." No, I'm about truth. Again, I'm about truth. Don't put any words in my mouth. I'm about truth. When he does a rally, there's a bajillion people there. When Biden does something, it's crickets. Okay? That is the sign of a communist or Marxist or a coup or a takeover. They don't have the support of most of the people.
That's right.
And so I'm not a Trumper. I'm not a Trumper. I'm telling you, this is a bigger problem around the world. That's how Marxism takes over. It's a small group controlling the larger group.
I say that all the time in any one of my podcasts and shows, is that freedom seems to be disappearing around the world. Not just here. They're not just picking away at freedom here in Canada and the United States. This is happening all around the world, and it's happening all at the same time.
Well, and you ask yourself, how does that happen? People say, well, that's impossible. How can there be such, a large movement moving at the same time? Because these organizations that are behind this are huge. We're talking the United Nations. We're talking the World Health Organization. We're talking the World Economic Forum. We're talking Klaus Schwab, who to me looks like the ultimate James Bond villain. We are going to make everything this way. Oh my gosh, this guy is a Rothschild. His father was a Nazi. Like, wake up, everybody. This is unbelievable. But you ask yourself, how can all this happen at the same time? Because they've been planning it for a long time, and they're very powerful. Look at the amount of money and the control that's involved. And how would you do it if you want to take over the world? Let's create a pandemic. Let's get everybody afraid. Lock them away so they can't talk. I mean, in Nova Scotia, wasn't there a guy who said, like, we got to stop the people from talking? I mean, that would be horrible if they. So you've got to stay in numbers of 5 or less.
Well, Canada tried to do that with the controlling of the internet.
And see, the Conservatives had the power to stop that, and they did.
Yeah,
Bill C-10. So that's the lesson. I love the PPC, but we've got to vote for somebody who's going to. Now, let me address this. The Conservatives can win this coming up, but there's a problem. Okay. I have connections in the Conservative Party that there's going to be some kind of regulation for unvaxxed people. You can't vote on the 20th of September.
Well,
okay?
And I kind of thought my son, actually, as smart as, as a smart ass as he is, he wrote something on Facebook about that. His thoughts as a 32-year-old, man, is that, are they telling us here now all of a sudden, will it all of a sudden be, if you're not vaccinated, you can't come in and vote?
Well, that's exactly what they're pulling. It's
perfect.
And if you don't think look, if you're thinking that you're going to vote liberal, you got to be really concerned with this, because now I'm telling everybody, advanced polling is what I'm being told to do. Advanced polling is September 10, 11, 12. Go and find it. Do your advanced polling. If you can help it, don't mail in. We know what there's problems there with fraud and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So advanced polling, go in, do whatever you have to do to get your vote in, and let's get these guys out of here. Now, as far as Conservatives being globalists, okay, I'm convinced, being in the party and talking with my MPs and the people like Pierre Poilievre and the majority of people in the Conservative Party are not globalists, okay, and they will guard our freedoms way better than what we have now. Okay. Now, once they're in power, we can work with that. But I think it's just imperative. If we don't get Trudeau out, we are headed for a Cuba situation or a Venezuela situation, a complete collapse of the economy and all of that. We don't want that.
Yeah, I see that. I see that coming every day. With the housing market and the banking system. And it's all seems to be the poor guy is the one that's getting kicked right in the where for it. And what I'm seeing is this is not just happening here though, but this is happening globally. And people got to open their eyes, and that's what I'm seeing is that we have got so complacent with all this. It's like, whatever Trudeau's doing today. And people just don't care, and they believe everything they see on, and I can't, I'm going to say it, and I shouldn't, but CTV and CBC, they believe everything that's being shot to them, over that 50-inch television on the wall.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people have stopped watching the news and stuff, but you have to get your news from somewhere, and so I think, what I did is I did a deep dive into the internet, and I saw a bunch of wackos, but I also saw great information. And I'm an adult, so I sifted through it. But if you're not going to research everything and take a listen and look, then how can you form an opinion? And so quite often and online is the same thing. There's a lot of stuff that's not true, and it's funny early on if I said something like this, like 6 months ago or 8 months ago, if I had made a comment, the reply back was, some kind of tinfoil hat or flat earth guy thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty intelligent. I'm not, into conspiracy theories. I'm just into truth. So I did my research. And one of the things that the communist or the Marxism way is to accuse you of doing the very thing that they're doing. It's well known in relationships that if someone's accusing you of cheating, it's probably because they are.
Well, and that's it. And I don't know, and it has to do with a lot of this. Well, I call them bum sitters. That generation now that's getting just handouts from the government. That is where we're going to. You see that the PC's got the commercial on the TV that every day we're borrowing $4.25 million to subsidize
where's that coming from?
Well, and that's it. We're like, where the hell are we borrowing it from when every country's in the same situation?
Yeah,
it just amazes me.
Well, because what is needed for this plan that they have, the Great Reset, which Trudeau has come out and said, yes, it's time for a reset.
Well, that whole reset thing, and I'm going to tell the people, I've known you for a little bit now, and we've talked about this over this last year and a half, and that Great Reset is a book, and you kind of guided me to that, and it's crazy that if you read the book, it's almost happening.
It's very strange how, these Marxists, what they do is, Hitler I believe it was the 20th, he was in jail and he wrote a book about what he wants to do to the Jews and all of that called Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
And he just put it all down and said, yeah, by the way, this is what I'm going to do. And so you'd think that enough people would see that coming when he actually started to do it, but they didn't. They just didn't bother to look at it and read it. This is the same thing that Klaus Schwab is doing. So when things happen, people go, I can't believe this. What happened? You and I predicted this a year ago.
Yeah,
we said, look, it's written right here. Here's what's going to happen. And you know what's coming next? Okay. It's not me sort of, saying, some weird theory. It's written in their book. Okay. Klaus Schwab's Great Reset says that we want to crash the economies around the world so we can introduce cashless society, AI, all of this stuff we want to bring in, and sorry if you're going to lose your life or your families are going to be homeless. Sorry about that, but this is what's going to happen because us at the top here are billions of dollars. We've just decided that this is better for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what people don't understand is that it's not a conspiracy theory. It's people in power who own the central banks that are going to do this. The only thing that we can do to turn it around is through legal action, which is happening all over the world, through information, such as what we're doing here, and also not division. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all this stuff. Look, I was brought up that we find common ideas and we accept them and we don't create division. anyone in my companies or the things that I do, anyone starts to create division or drama, they're gone. I don't work with them. I work with people who want to find a solution together. And so this is what I see on, and look at Afghanistan. I mean, you just have to look around the border crisis. I'm a Christian, so the Bible teaches us that you'll know them by their fruit. Okay, so what that means is cause and effect, basically. So what's been happening lately? So if you're looking at, places like China and Cuba and now, the Biden administration, all this stuff, is there any good coming of any of this? I mean, is there any, and the flip side of that, I used to hear this all the time about, Trump. Okay, a lot of people didn't like Trump. Okay, yeah. I as a Canadian, it's not great for me to sort of offer opinions on other leaders and stuff. What I find strange is the pre-Trump presidency. Trump is one of the most loved people in America.
But
right?
Do you think Donald Trump more was judged on his policies or on his personality?
Oh well, look, I've said it a million times. Trump could jump into a raging water and save a little child and come out the other side, and people would say, Trump took the day off from working today.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. There's always somebody that's going to criticize no matter what.
Well, look, when see Trump again, not to I don't know of any candidates, any presidents that didn't have skeletons in their closets, and anybody who didn't, who says, well, look at what he said about women or races or this or that, is not paying attention.
Well, sometimes that does get to me in politics. That they bring up shit that the kid did when he was 18. You know what I mean? Like who the hell?
Well, yeah. I mean,
who the hell cares? Look, he's not the same person.
One of my favorite, athletes from the NFL, Herschel Walker, is really good friends with Donald.
That's right.
I mean, wake up, everybody. You're being fed brainwashed stuff. Because why? Why did they do that? Why did the media do that? Why did people do that? So they found all kinds of flaws in Donald Trump, yes, for sure, as a person. He's a good businessman. He's a good businessman, and he was not a globalist. This is the problem, is he did not, he pulled them out of the Paris Accord. All these things he was doing, he was actually against this globalist movement that the rest of the world didn't know was coming. Okay, so they don't want him in power, and that's what happened.
Well, this whole Biden and Donald Trump whole election, fiasco, is where are you at with that? Like, do you think there was actually, fraud there?
Well, let's be fair. Going back in elections, there's always been fraud.
Well, true.
Let's state that there's always been some sort of fraud there. But the level of fraud that happened here was different. It was a communist Marxist takeover of the globalists. It's very, very simple, and even to question that what is wrong with bringing up the question? Let's get to the bottom of this. Again, it's very simple. To try to stop actually the investigation is wrong, because most of the people, even if you're a Biden supporter, most of the people in the United States and around the world think that there was fraud. So the best way to look at it is to say, look, if there's a few thousand ballots that went missing or this or that, that's not what we're talking about here. What if I told you that there was 8 to 10 million difference, or 5 million, and there was interference from China? Would that make you say, well, I think we should investigate this? So again, without being pro-Trump, anti-Trump, it's not my place. I realize that, if I'm there, yeah.
Everybody's like, they beat up on Trump, but he did promote America first, and that's what he won the election on, that he was going to promote, and the United States of America would be would be first. And, he went out to prove that. And, I have my differences with Donald Trump about, some of his actions like during his presidency. But, as America first, that should be the job of any president or prime minister.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
No, neither do I. But here in Canada, it seems that our prime minister and our government at this point prefers to deal with other countries than the problems within our own.
Well, look, Trudeau is very open with his beliefs, and again. Having a quote from him saying, I'm a big fan of the Chinese dictatorial system.
Yep. But that shouldn't be a surprise. Like, before his father became a Liberal, who was also a prime minister of Canada, and we have people listening all over the world. So, he was also a prime minister who was part of the Communist Party before he became a Liberal.
Yeah.
So, there's family ties here, right?
I know. And I wonder what time in his life Pierre kind of looked at his son, Justin, and kind of said, he's a lot better looking than me. I wonder what the hell happened there.
Well, you notice that it's a federal election, and all of a sudden his dictator look is gone and his little boyish look is back, right?
Well, just line it up against Fidel Castro's face and just tell me what you see.
Well, now you're freaking acting like a conspiracy theorist now.
Yeah,
it's like you're getting people to think, right?
Listen, if I go overboard or over the line a little bit here and there, that's totally fine. I listen to Bill Burr.
Freedom Radio, right? You're allowed to do that, right?
No, and look,
we got a federal election coming up. Just some thoughts on what's the three most important things that you think these between the NDP, the PCs, and of course the Liberals. Like what do you think they're three important things they should be campaigning on?
Well, it's interesting. I think most of there's a whole side here that's talking about mandatory passport. That's a huge issue, and the difference what I see right now is kind of a tyrannical approach with Trudeau. It's globalist. It's, you will do this, you will do that, and we don't care what you think. On the conservative side, although they're not as far over as PPC, they are saying, well, we do want you to get vaccinated. We do want you to be safe. We are, at this point, saying okay to vaccine passport, mandatory passport, not mandatory, but vaccine passports. But if you're not going to get the vaccine, then you must do rapid testing. So there's that window of, okay, we're not tyrants. So I would lean forward towards PPC on that subject. I don't think we need passports. I think it's a clear move towards, introducing global tyranny. You can't, we could get into more discussions about the social credit score that's coming in and all of that, where, you have to, you can't do this, you can't do that. You have to check in. You've got, chips in your arm, and this kind of thing. So I'm leaning towards conservative because I think they'll guard our values and freedoms. I know they will. And it may not be exactly what I like, but I know they'll do that. So that's number one on the list right now. I think the economy has to be on there too. And Pierre Poilievre is like my favorite guy in history. He's not a politician. He is exactly what we need in our, and he's talking about the economy. So they're anti-globalist. They're not wanting to crash the economy. They want to build the economy. Okay. So that's the first two. When we get past that, my interest kind of wanes past those 2 points. I mean, climate control is interesting because one of the globalist main things is climate emergency. So you talked about how do I know what's coming? Guaranteed, they're going to ramp up, even if they have to burn towns to the ground, whatever they have to do to show us that the planet is overheating and all of that. Now, do we have a problem with pollution? Do we have a problem with all of this? I'm not an expert. I will tell you, I'm not an expert there. But I think there is a lot of people who care a lot about the Paris Accord or the green this and green that. I'm all for it to fixing anything we can and doing it quickly. But again, work together. Don't have a second agenda of control. Don't use climate to try to control politically everything we're doing. Okay,
yeah, that whole climate control thing, with the Liberal government and any government really, especially the carbon tax. Like how do you tax carbon, but then you have a buyout system where you can pollute more if you pay more. Like it's a grab. It's a monkey.
Look, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now I went and I bought a hybrid lately. About 3 months ago, I bought a hybrid, and it makes me feel good. But also, I start to hear like, "Oh, what's going to happen to your battery in 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, whatever?" I'm like, I don't know. Are they going to? Is this going to be like where are we going to store all these dead batteries? How do we get rid of those? So the point is that one of the things the globalists do is they try to appeal to, it's, if you go outside, if you don't wear a mask, you're going to kill your grandmother. Right? Oh, well, I don't want to kill my grandmother, so I better do this.
That was a big thing, like protect our seniors. Like that was a whole campaign.
Just ask the seniors what they think.
Yeah.
The seniors are fine with that. The seniors are like, no, I want to see my grandkids. If I get sick, I get sick. I'm 54. If I have a choice between catching, COVID or something, or seeing my son, I'll choose to see my son.
Well, that's it. You're a father, and this whole thing, like, how does this thing, like they say it's age, they're basing everything on age. So is it because the younger generation has got healthier lungs, or are you afraid?
They don't care.
Are you afraid of sending? Well, I guess what I'm saying is, are you afraid to send your kids to school because they might get COVID?
No, I'm afraid to keep them at home.
Because well, I say that too. Like in my podcast, The World's Gone Bonkers, I say the same thing. We are going to end up raising a world full of uneducated people. And
get outside, get running around, playing with your friends. I just had a talk with somebody 2 hours ago, and she was through my business. She had to jab a 4-year-old, and she was in tears.
Yeah.
So again, they're saying 6-8 months ago, don't worry, anybody over 18, is what we're looking at. We won't go. Now they're like, as soon as they pop out, a little infant there, let's jab them. All these ridiculous things like, okay, so I've got to get knee surgery coming up. Am I going to get blood from, somebody that's, because we don't really know. This whole FDA thing is really quite something, because if you do research into the FDA, you can see how many times they've, quote, approved things, and then there's been massive problems afterwards, and they don't back up what they say, right?
Like, same with the Canadian Health Agency. They've approved, hundreds and hundreds of drugs, and then pulled them not more than a year later. So it works both ways.
Look at television. It's like American. You see these companies like, do you have trouble with XYZ? Well, here's our product, and we'll take care of that. However, if you find that you grow an extra limb next year, or not responsible. Some people have died, or this or that. It's just the list of things that it could do to you is longer than to where you go, I think I'll take my chance.
Well, my wife's was in the pharmacy industry, and like she was in the pharmacy, like giving out this stuff, and she used to say that all the time. We'd see a commercial, and she says, would you really take that? It's going to cause this, it's going to cause that, it's going to cause this, and at the end, it may cause death. I'm going to really risk that, right? It's just, but we do it every day. But we've been vaccinating for how many years we've been vaccinating?
Yeah. See, the thing is, if it may cause life.
Well,
to just live, it may cause life. So just live. All this fear mongering of what we could get, and it's blatantly a takeover, because the science is not behind all of this. It's not. 0.002% chance you're going to die of it. Oh, great. Well, let's inject a bunch of stuff that's going to, have who knows what it's going to do. Look, I've chosen my path,
That's
and
right,
at the end of the day, freedom to me
that's what it's all about, Mark. It's not about the vaccine, right? To you, it's not about the vaccine. It's about your freedom to choose. And that's
right.
it. Like for me, I've been vaccinated, and you know that twice, and I've got full vaccinations, and you're not. You don't hate me for it. You don't criticize me for it. It was my choice. And that's what people need to understand about this whole conversation. It's about the fact that we're losing the right to choose.
Well, and the
they're
thing
controlling it by saying, what? If you're not, and Trudeau openly said this the other day in his campaign on his campaign trail, is that if you don't want to get vaccinated, don't expect to go to venues, to go out for dinner. Don't be able to expect to take your family to the amusement parks. So is that not government control? How is that free?
Well, but what people don't understand, which hopefully they do start to, is to non-comply. Because at the meeting yesterday with Awake Canada, they showed us the vaccination cards, which basically have up to 8 on there right now. So if you think you're going to get 2 and then stop, you're mistaken. So you're going to be asked to boost, and you're going to have to fill in. And they right now their card goes up to 8.
Wow.
Okay, so is that about health?
No, not at all, really.
It's a sign up.
But
look, Bill Gates knows.
But
Bill Gates grew up with Bill Gates grew up with computers. Right. It's all he knows is updating computers. We're humans that he wants to update every 6 months.
Yeah, it seems to be that way. It just amazes me that there's so many people that are just saying, who cares? Just get vaccinated.
Yeah, like
whatever. It's
whatever the government wants to do. Okay, we got to do this now.
Yeah, I get my $900 every 2 weeks, and I can sit here and play video games and not have to worry. And it comes right back to complacency again. Like this is an important. Like we're in the middle of a federal election, and how important do you think this election really is?
Well, I have never cared about elections before, and I will go on record as saying this is basically: do you want to be Cuba? Do you want to be Venezuela? Do you want to have everything taken away from you? Hey, you homeowners out there, do you realize that after they have everyone vaccinated and controlled, the next thing they're going after is your house, all of your property, because that's part of the globalist agenda. They will get it to that point where they take away your, we can't let it get to that part. One of the people, a feminist from the United States, Naomi Wolf, a feminist for a long time, and a left, leaning left, is on record right now. She's saying, oh my God, this is like stage 9 out of 10 in a Marxist takeover. This is a classic of all this that's happening. And she's actually been on, conservative shows like Tucker Carlson and everything, saying, hey, people, wake up. This is not just a virus. This is a communist takeover. They're using the pandemic, like Chrystia Freeland says, this is a great opportunity to do this and that. Look, the pandemic is not an opportunity, you bozo.
No, that's no. But what gets me too is that we knew this was coming to our country, and we allowed it to do it. Like they just let people keep coming, and it was like, do you want to kill us, or is this all bullshit? And and I'm going to say that right out loud. It's like, to me, Afghanistan right now. It's like, what is going on? We spent all this time, and how many lives, Canadian and U.S. lives, to just say, take it back over, Taliban? Like, is this just a global conspiracy? Like, do you really believe in conspiracies? Because there's a lot of conspiracy theorists right now that totally believe Afghanistan's right now is part of the big plan.
Yeah, we can get into that, and all the minerals that are available in Afghanistan are the stuff you need to make batteries and lithium and these kind of things. And so China's now moving in there, and they're going to have control. We already see that these chips and stuff that are controlled largely by the Chinese. It's all part of the tyrannical takeover. I mean, these people have been planning this forever, and they're very smart. So people say,
we all know that, the people, our natural resources, have a great big dent in it and owned by, Chinese and China investment. It's happening here too. It's not just there.
Yeah. So their plan is, again, I think, Pompeo said it best. We kind of thought that we'd moved past this tyrannical communist thing years ago with the Chinese, but all the while they were planning all of this.
Yeah, it almost thinks so. But the one thing that I got to emphasize here to the listeners is that you gotta really investigate who and what you're listening to, because there's a lot of bullshit out there.
Well, yeah, but you are an adult, so
and that's it.
So don't just go to one source. Don't go to two sources. Don't just overreact. Don't even listen to me.
Well, but to be fair to our listeners here, and there's a hell of a lot of them here today, and I got to tell you, you kind of have an advantage. I kind of have an advantage on this topic because we deal with people from all walks of life, all around the world, each and every day in our other life, in our jobs, right? We deal with you deal with people every day around the world, so you hear what's going on in other countries, so you kind of got a little bit of a head start on what's going on. Let's face it, and you do know that everything seems to be joining together like this is a big world takeover, because it's happening all over the world.
Well, I talk to people in every continent, and I talk to people at home here, and talked to a longshoreman yesterday. There's like a huge amount of them putting something together to fight back them having to get. It's again, I'm okay with what everyone makes their decision, but what this is about is bigger than, you may think, hey, I got no problem taking the vaccine and this and that. That's okay. I may get it eventually. I don't know. I just am not convinced yet. And so I should have that ability to make that choice. Correct?
Correct. I agree. 100%. It's like they're taking even the corporations that are mandatory, like you have to be vaccinated now, like the city of Toronto, like October 31st. And if you still choose not to be vaccinated, then they want to send you to education, classes. That kind of shit scares me.
Well, it is. It is very scary. And I'm just getting into my car. I'll call back if there's an issue.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up pretty quick here. Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. We're in our car now. We're headed along. But with all of the stuff that's being talked about, I just would say that what concerns me is the speed with which things are being done.
Yeah.
Without proper, in healthcare, we're supposed to be sure of things before we do this or that.
Right.
And that's being thrown out the window. Things that I have been taught my entire life about ethics and what you can do to people have been thrown out the door instantly. And don't compare this to the 1918 pandemic.
Well, that's
okay. Right. There was no internet. There's no internet back then. There's no one like. Imagine for a second if some of these dictators from the past, like Hitler or whatnot. Imagine if they had the internet. Oh my gosh!
Well, no, socialist agenda would just fly.
Yeah, and so what can people do? I think vaccinated and unvaccinated people need to be together on freedoms, because if we're going to mandate everything regardless of what is fair, then it's going to come for everybody at some point. It's going to. It may not touch you now with vaccines, but it's going to come for your property. It's going to come for your ability to drive a car. They don't want you. The globalists don't want you driving. Okay, they want AI cars coming to, if you have your social credit score topped up, and you're a loyal, government person, you'll be able to order a car to come and pick you up to take you to the store, and then they'll tell you what you can buy and all of this stuff. That's where we're headed, everybody. Right?
Yeah, it's scary. It really is. That I don't really worry about myself, and my kids are all grown up, but I have grandchildren about the age of your youngest, and it scares me that what world are they going to live in? But anyway, Mark, I got a last word coming up to you. Is there a way out of this?
Oh yeah, there is most definitely a way out of this, and it's not a blunt force, violent, situation. What it is several aspects to it. It's continued discussion and education. Okay, it's non-comply. That's across the board, just non-comply, and it doesn't mean being a jerk about it. It's just understand that all these mandates are not laws. They are not laws.
And that's a whole different. That's a whole different topic that, I love to get into with you because, and I'll take the extra 5 minutes just to do it because, that's the point. None of these mandates are laws, but they're leading you to believe that they are.
You know what they're doing is they're using the fact that you're a good person and that you'll do whatever you're sort of asked to do. They're using that. That's the ultimate horrible thing. It's like taking, going to somebody who's maybe, mentally challenged and then, using that fact to take advantage of them. Now, not to say us or, everyone's mentally challenged. I'm just saying they're taking a vulnerable area, which is we've always been taught to be good people and do what we're told. So that good quality, is being used against us now. And all these lawsuits, there's thousands of lawsuits happening right now. Now, CBC will never tell you that. CTV will never tell you that. There's thousands of lawsuits happening from lawyers, doctors, whistleblowers, everywhere. So it's happening. And so the courts, when it's going to court, they're siding with us. They're basically saying there's no law. They can't force people to do this. We're just being told to do stuff. And they hope that we are afraid and we'll do it. Okay,
right.
So the further it gets along, though, then you get governments like, what Trudeau's going to do is he's going to mandate the fact that, take away elections and freedom and censorship and all that kind of stuff. He's going to add censorship so that they will eventually become laws.
Yeah, that was the biggest part of the big bill there to change the internet was that, basically bad mouthing the government was a no-no. You couldn't do that, and I think that's kind of like
that's
what
KGB stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's KGB stuff.
Well,
yeah.
It just surprises me that with all the corruption that is open right there in the Liberal government, that we are just letting it go by. It's like I don't understand this whole NDP Liberal coalition because everything that Trudeau wants, the NDP should be against, and I don't get it.
Well, in a perfect system, you'd take it each one as its own. Like you'd say, well, I agree with you here, but I don't agree with you there. The fact is that they bring in these supposed, I don't know what they're called. They're trying to get it to be a law, the C-10, Bill C-10.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so here's 3,000 pages. Please read this and get back to us in 2 days because we're going to put this through.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute here. So it's all tactics. Same with this, you can't vote on the 20th if you're vaccinated, if you're not vaccinated, and all this stuff. All this is dirty pool, and the reason it's happening is because we are allowing it. So we have to get them out. That's the first priority, get them out. Then we'll work on the rest.
Yeah, do you think it's going to get to the point, though, Mark, that they're going to say, well, now if you're not vaccinated, you're not allowed in the grocery stores. You're not allowed in medical buildings.
Yep.
Because, and I said that too, with my health, it's like I go into these hospitals to do tests and all that other garbage. And, I got to still put on a mask. I still got to go through the COVID screening, which I don't have a problem with. But, I said to my doc, I says, well, why am I doing this? I thought you said once I'm vaccinated, I don't have to worry about it. But, I'm still treated, like it's craziness. And I don't think, I talk to some doctors that say, yeah, you should be vaccinated. And then I talk to others, like I talked to an ICU nurse that says, yeah, our ICUs are packed. But if they would open the 30% of the ICU beds they closed and brought back our staff, which she said they're still laying off, we might be able to control this. So, so in layman's sense, they've closed 30%. Yeah. So they've slam-based our medical care, and now they're, using it as a crutch that they can't handle.
Well, there's no question. And see, you're telling us first-hand information of talking to doctors. I went in for something, a problem about 6 months ago. I went into the hospital and had some, equilibrium problems in my head. And I was there for about 6 hours, and it was nothing serious. And a doctor came in, and I said, oh, by the way, I got a question here. Have you ever heard of ivermectin? And he said, no. And I said, well, let's Google it together. So I Googled it, and he said, oh yeah, no, this is a horse, parasite, anti-parasite horse treatment or whatever. And he'd never heard of it. Okay. And then I said, well, why is that? And we started to talk. Do you know that doctor in the hospital sat with me for an hour and 15 minutes? An hour and 15 minutes with an emergency doctor. Okay. At which time he said, look, all of this stuff is wrong. There's something really wrong here. I don't know what to do. I'm being told I have to vaccinate or wear a mask.
Yep.
And this was 8 months ago. He said, I don't agree with any of it. We're not prescribing people to get vitamin D. We're not prescribing them to go outside to be healthy or to boost your immune system. None of that's being talked about.
Well,
so
you know what?
I have first-hand information.
That's right, and that's the point, though. And more doctors now are refusing to comment, and because they're being threatened with a lot of their loss of their jobs. And people don't realize up here in Canada, like they're paid a salary. Like here in British Columbia, the docs are paid a salary for what they do. So it doesn't matter if they see one patient a day or 30, they get paid the same every month, no matter what. And, a lot of them won't comment. Like I have a family doc here that's very, very smart, and we talk about it all the time. And I've asked him to come on my show, and he just says, no, I can't. And then he'll guide me to, doctors that are willing to talk about it. And a lot of them now are I've had one scheduled here for next week that actually canceled because they, just doesn't want to talk about it right now with all these passports and stuff coming on. He said he had to reevaluate. So whatever that means, I heard someone told him he couldn't come. I don't know. But hey, Mark, it's going to have to change. So I'm going to give you your last statement again because we kind of interrupted. What is the way out of this?
Well, it's non-comply wherever you can. It's educate. And where possible, stay up on all these legal challenges because the way out of these things is education. Right now, we have this opportunity to educate ourselves before it's too late, and there's troops on the streets, and quarantining people. By the way, quarantining people. The word quarantine is meant for when you're sick, so you quarantine. What is being proposed by sending people to the way is not quarantine. Okay, it is prison. It's prison, and so to get out of this is to talk, to educate, to do research outside of the mainstream, and get involved in some way with Awake Canada, with some of these charter rights organizations, and be aware, and so you can affect your world. Because it does change. I mean, if you affect one little area in your area, like this longshoreman here, who's got 300 people who are putting together a petition, and they're going to walk off the job. you can strike. You can hit these people in the pocketbook. And let me tell you something. If we're going to have a worldwide reset, I don't want the people in charge of it that are currently there. We will vote you in. We will vote you in. People from all countries that we trust. We will not have Bill Gates and Fauci and Soros deciding for us what the reset is going to be. So I'm okay if we want to have a one world government. I'm just not okay with them running it. They're the problem of why we're in this position. So let's find some people who we can trust, and then we can do a one world government. That's my opinion.
Wow, there you go. Hey, Mark, I want to thank you for stopping by On Air with Don Pearse here at Cat Country Radio. It's always a pleasure to have conversations with you in private and on the air. You got a website out there about with some help with all this too. Yeah, you want to share that with us?
Well, what I thought I wanted to do at the beginning of all of this was just how can I help, right? So we have a lot of people that want to help and they don't know what to do. And I don't want your money. I'm doing well. I'm well taken care of. What I want to do is I want to help and support small business, medium and small business. I also want to provide a platform for people to discuss things and talk that they won't be censored. So I created whatwecando.world. And it's taken me a little bit, I have a life outside of it, right? So it's taken me a little bit to get it all up and running. It's there now. And what we're going to do is support and promote small and medium-sized businesses. So get a hold of me, private message me, and if you've got an online store or something that needs promotion, then you're a small business or medium-sized. Costco doesn't need our help. Walmart doesn't need our help. We want to do that. We want to. So right on this platform, you'll find a place to comment, put pictures up, do things. Uncensored, just like Facebook. And also, you'll find an area called Marketplace that we're going to add businesses and promote them for, helping them out, which is one of the big things that the globalists want to destroy is the small business. They need to do that. They need to get everything centralized. So that's probably what I would suggest. And be patient with us. We're trying to put this together and still live our lives and all of that.
Yeah, and that's it. It's a big job, and just getting the contacts there to be able to have that and facilitate the help to the people that need it. It's not a small task that you've actually endured yourself in. Compared to be, as busy as you are now, I was actually surprised when you took that on too.
Well, I can't not do something. I have children.
And that's the way I felt about it, Mark. We talked and we talked and we talked, and I talked to my wife, and she says, "Well, you have the platform, do something." And so that's where On Air and Freedom Radio all came from. That's for sure. But I got to.
Well, congratulations on that. Congratulations. Yeah. I'm really happy for you, Don, and you're a great person. You're loved by so many people, and I hope everything goes really well for you.
Yeah, it's doing great, Mark, and I would like to extend any help that Cat Country Radio and of course myself personally can help with your fight for freedom and with your website and everything else. If people need promoting, I'd be happy to do it, especially if they're promoting freedom of speech and freedom of entry. No matter what, I have no issue with giving them shout outs on the air for people to hear it across the world. So, for the people that are listening from, of course, businesses of British Columbia against vax, they're all here. Against passes, I guess they're against the passports. So they're here listening. Everybody from Mark's World is listening here. So, Mr. Rosner, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your opinions. I hope to have you again as things progress here. I'd like to have you again and, see how things are going.
Thanks again, Don, and take care, and everybody be safe as you can.
Yep, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark is Mr. Mark Rosner. Like he said, he's got the website out, whatwecando.world. Check that out. Mark, you have yourself a wonderful week and a wonderful day. Stay safe. And guess what, folks? We'll be back right after, Luke Combs right here.